viewer. Today, and I know unfortunately this video is going to be a lot, terrible since it's not scripted, but today I thought it'd be good. And a little bit of a critique on Crispy Boy's tier list for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. For those who don't know, Thanksgiving 2020, the worst Macy's parade to many people, and Crispy Boy makes a tier list on balloons that flew at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The tier list was a little bit of a fresh air to some, due to the fact that most Macy's parade content on the website of YouTube is just mediocre or the exact same, such as just balloon history videos, clips from phones recorded on a monitor, balloon compilations, and stuff like that. No original content, with tier lists being rare. In fact, as of now, it's the only tier list video that's really popular as of now. Anyways, let's get into this tier list. Now, the tier list concept is obviously pretty simple. Go with balloons from the Macy's parade, and then just make them a tier list. Unfortunately, however, it's not really good. Let's get into a few problems. 1. Barely any research. This one is pretty, why do I need to explain this? It's not really a big problem to some, but to me, especially since I, know a lot about the parade, it's honestly a really big problem for me. Firstly, it's pretty clear he actually didn't research before making the video, as a lot of the characters, or a lot of the opinions and stuff like that, are just random, and, characters from, I don't know how to explain it. Despite being a balloon tier list, a couple floats managed to get into the list, such as the KFC float, the, fucking Mario Odyssey float, which is not even from the parade, as Nintendo nor Mario have ever been represented in the parade, with the closest element being Pikachu. But even then, that doesn't really count, as Pikachu was never sponsored by Nintendo throughout his 21 years in the parade. Now let's get on to the second problem, his reasons for putting them on the list. See how red and, green eggs and ham and Chicken Little are down there? For Chicken Little is understandable. Chicken Little, the movie, is often considered one of the worst films due to the fact that the father's a dick. Green eggs and ham is just kind of random, but the reason for putting red in D is because Angry Birds not that popular anymore.
In 2017? Angry Birds was huge. Let's not get that wrong. It is dated though. It is over 15 years old, I think. It's old. I don't know. It seems a little weird that he's in here. I'm putting him as a D. Nothing wrong with Angry Birds. He doesn't, I don't know. Not as much room. Okay.
And that's literally the only reason he put it in D. I mean, if you want to base it on how popular a franchise is, it's okay to do that, but he didn't base it on when the balloon debuted, and rather during the time, like 2020 for example. There was not that much going on with Angry Birds in 2020, so of course, he put it in D. But if you were to base it on how popular Angry Birds was when the balloon made its debut in 2015, or even 2016, it would be a lot higher. But unfortunately, he didn't do that. Next up, he didn't even go with a specific decade. If you want to go with a tier list for the Macy's Parade, since there's been over 90 decades, or I don't think there's actually 90 decades, but it's been nearly 100 years since the parade first started back in 1924. So you really need to just go with one decade and not, or maybe even two. At max, in my opinion, the sweet spot would be around 3 decades, as if you were to go past, it would just be complicated. The earliest balloon I can see him cover would be, I'm looking at the tier list image right now. So the earliest element, at least to my knowledge, that is in the tier list, and I'm scanning through this, is Mickey Mouse, who debuted in the 1934 parade. And even then, he didn't even choose any other Mickey Mouse design. He only chose the first one and didn't go with the second, third, or fourth incarnations. Oh yeah, and speaking of Mickey, I recently did like a balloon history on Mickey. Just sorry for plugging right there. Anyways, let's get back into the video. Speaking of floats and elements that just don't make sense, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I understand that Foster's Home is pretty popular, especially since 2008 had Rick Astley perform Never Gonna Give You Up. I'm not kidding. But that doesn't really give you an excuse to put out a high tier. I mean, if the float didn't have an interesting performance in 2008, he would probably have put it lower. Anyways, also get into another problem. He doesn't also mention other incarnations. For example, even though the second Hello Kitty balloon is used, he doesn't mention the 2007 balloon, which debuted in, like I said, in 2007, and would appear until 2011, where it was replaced by that one. He also forgets, well, kind of, Kermit's first incarnation. The tier list image shows the second balloon, I believe during the 2003 parade, but the footage he uses when talking about Kermit is not just a low quality rip of it, but a rip of his 1991 accident, which didn't even feature that Kermit. I mean, it's understandable since both balloons are doing an identical pose, but you really could have just looked up the wiki app. Speaking of, he also forgets a lot of very iconic characters such as Snoopy, surprisingly, especially since he holds the record for many things, and has basically been in every parade since 1967. Yes, I said 1967. And he also forgets on a couple other characters such as Bullwinkle and Underdog. I mean, Underdog is not really talked about by people younger than 50, but he's still an icon. For example, in 1994, he was on the first episode, the first Thanksgiving episode of Friends. He was used in the 2008 Coca-Cola Super Bowl ad, etc. So it doesn't really make sense how he skipped out on Underdog. With Bullwinkle, I kind of understand. Not that much people talk about Bullwinkle. But even then, Bullwinkle returned in 1996 for the second movie. It was around the same time as most of the other movies featured in his tier list. He also, like I said, gets some stuff wrong, such as when talking about the Barney balloon, and he only goes over the first one because that's pretty famous, and not the second one oddly enough. He says this.
Barney is a big icon, but he's a little bit of an annoying icon. That being said, on sheer performance, on this specific Barney, this Barney balloon is pretty famous because he was torn apart on live television.
Now, if you know anything about this was not on NBC. This was captured live, make note of how there's no announcers, and it wasn't even captured at Herald Square, where NBC captures the parade. It was captured at Times Square, which although CBS does capture it, as of now, the 1997 CBS telecast is lost media and is yet to be found. I highly doubt that they actually even taped Barney's accident, since CBS's coverage actually covers other parades, just fill in the time slot. Speaking of, he also forgets Ronald's second, third, fourth incarnations. He also may be going, where's the fifth incarnation? Well, this tier list predates the fifth incarnation, so it's understandable for the fifth one. But for the second, third, and fourth ones, like I said, they both existed when this tier list was made, so it doesn't really make sense to skip them. Not to mention, for whatever reason, he puts the Rugrats 2000 balloon as a different balloon, and also just puts it lower for whatever reason. Like, what's the difference? Like, I do understand that the 2000 Rugrats balloon is somewhat different, but slap a beret on Tommy and then you call it terrible. The fuck? Also, I don't know if anyone cares, but I'll just do a pretty crappy imitation of him reacting to the 30s Mickey Mouse balloon.
It is Mickey Mouse.
I'm also looking at this tier list, and it's honestly just those few problems I have with the tier list. I hope he improves if he ever does manage to make a second one this year, since I actually commented on it, and he actually responded to it saying, to basically sum it up in a nutshell for those who don't understand, he had no idea that this stuff is all wrong. I mean, no offense, dude, but that kind of shows how you didn't actually research the parade and probably actually don't watch it live on NBC or even in New York City. So that's really my video done. Thanks for watching, I guess. And hopefully he improves with his second tier list.